But you know what? We can't imagine it because right now we're in the space industry. We're trying to go into space. We're trying to mine the moon. We're trying to get to asteroids. We're trying to live on Mars. We're trying to do all these amazing things that are very hard. It's just going to take dedicated people who understand risk to get there.
100%. And that's the culture that's here.
Yeah.
You know, the wildcatter. Right?
Every single person in Midland has a purpose, and I love it.
Absolutely.
Out west where the sun always beams bright, Midland skies keep the hustle in sight. BAM Consultants got the blueprint intact. For dreamers on the grind, they got your back. Championing dreams from the ground to supreme, providing that spark, igniting the team. Marketing flow strategies that glean. BAM in Midland, building your dream. They teach
Bam!
I like it.
We got Eric McManus with Space Force Association.
Oh, Eric McManus. I started my career in the Navy in 2005. I was a ballistic missile defense expert and an advanced air defense expert. Deployed 4 times out of Pearl Harbor on board USS Chaffee. Went to USS Chosin after that. That ship actually caught on fire the first 6 weeks I was there.
Wow!
And so it was a very different experience. We had to go into the yards and repair the whole ship. And so I got to do an entire integrated logistics overhaul. So I went from being like forward deployed, war fighting to now we've got to fix this whole ship. And so to have that breadth of experience all within a 6-year timeline was pretty incredible. Yeah. We got that ship all fixed up, overhauled, lit off. Great experience, great crew. I moved on to White Sands Missile Range after that for Aegis baseline development, which is the most advanced weapon system in the world, in my opinion. I love Aegis weapon system. It's an autonomous weapon system that is deployed maritime and is the largest seagoing weapon system in the world. It is now being installed at a shore site. So the very first one was in Romania. We helped put those builds together and test those at White Sands Missile Range and also we did Standard Missile 6 testing with F-35, which is super duper cool. Did one hypersonic test there. From there, I realized I really wanted to help the Navy, not just one ship. So I had the option to go to one ship and be stationed on there and continue my career in the Navy, or go to Lockheed Martin and help multiple ships. So I did that. I went to Aegis Fleet Readiness at Lockheed Martin. We were responsible to Missile Defense Agency and the Naval Sea Systems Command for ensuring warfighting readiness across the globe for our Navy with the Aegis weapon system. And so we would assess ships, groom ships, prepare ships for going on deployment. We would even go out in combat zones as civilians and go work on those ships for preventative and corrective repairs. Lots of really interesting things happened when, I knew a lot about the weapon system at that point. I know a lot about the strategic necessity of having a weapon system of that nature. It was when I went out and I had to go to multiple ships. I was going to probably 10 ships a year, sometimes 6 ships a year. You see all these different problem sets, and you're able to really start strategically putting together solutions. And there was just one thing that really rung out to me while I was there, and it was that if we overhauled those weapon systems at their half-life cycle, the preventative maintenance from that point forward becomes a lot easier, and those ships become maintainable, and they're rapidly ready for warfighting. So we overhauled 3 ships in 1 year. One of them was the oldest Aegis asset in the world. Got those ships performing. One of them was outperformed one of the newest Aegis assets in the world, and we won a contract between Missile Defense Agency and Naval Sea Systems Command. That was a $35 million contract for a 5-year period of performance to essentially provide that service to the Navy year after year after year. Realized that, it's great to make money for Lockheed Martin. It's great to help the Navy in that way, but I could probably make money for myself and still help the Navy or help space. And so I moved back to Texas where I belong, and that's where I started my real space career. Initially I got into semiconductors, and I did a few products. I have one in geospatial orbit on some GPS satellites, little 5mm by 5mm. We call them chips, I guess, but it's a semiconductor hybrid micro-integrated circuit, just an amplifier. It was really cool, though, to go through that certificate of conformance, that manufacturing process, as well as I've got a few products in low Earth orbit in LEO, which is fun, did military products. At around the same time, the Space Force Association regional VP, Joe Guzman, he's in charge of the central region of the U.S. he approached me and said, "Hey, we really need a Texas Space Force Association." And I was like, "We don't have a Space Force in Texas." And he's like, "No, hear me out. You know, Texas has all these things, and we should look into it, and we should take all these capabilities in Texas to help the Space Force understand that they have capabilities here that they can utilize, even though they're not here. We can help affect the Space Force." And I was like, "All right, man, I'll give it a shot. We'll go for it." So Joe and team, we put together our founding chapter members, established the Space Force Association Texas. Immediately recognized there's not just space stuff happening in Houston, and that I needed to travel around Texas. And so I started traveling around Texas in 2022. Landed in Midland around mid-spring 23, and immediately recognized, wow, there's a lot of great potential here between the capital and the amount of financial potential here, the capacity in our airspace that we have. There's just pretty much untouched. We're allowed to go to space with a lot easier here than we would be able to in I don't know, the Texas Triangle, so to speak. It's a lot heavier dense air traffic.
Right.
In addition to that, we have a lot of land. It's pretty hard to not notice the amount of land we have here.
Man.
So, and that's really an aerospace engineer's, dream.
Yeah.
Is to have wide open land, wide open air, and enough money to do whatever you need to do.
It's like the perfect storm here.
Yes.
It really is. I love this. Like, you just went through your military history real quick, and then a quick dump into the Space Force Texas, right? So, and you mentioned, we left off with, this is the perfect storm, the perfect place to have something. We're the largest space industry hub in the nation, right?
I would say that, and it's between Texas and Florida, it's hard to tell, but it's very easy to say that the state of Texas is globally leading commercialization in space. I would love to be able to say that Texas leads the commercialization of space globally. And I think we can, and we will within the next few years.
Texas exceptionalism.
Texas exceptionalism, yes. Through Texas exceptionalism, the space industry will thrive.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because you have all the elements here.
Yes.
All the elements. So recently, a couple weeks ago, we had I did a little something. I did a live podcast in the middle of a mixer, and I had a guest panel, and one of the panelists, unbeknownst to me, well, it wasn't even a thought in my head when I asked him to be part of it, was the former mayor Jerry Morales.
Oh, no.
He brought space industry to Midland.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. He and his council initiated that.
Yeah. And I believe Robin Donnelly was on the commissioner at that point too.
I believe so.
Yeah. That was 2014.
Yeah. And so when I brought that up, the question, he's so passionate about it.
Good.
And he's still like, he loves seeing it come together. And we were talking about how, the infrastructure here, we have the engineers, we have wide open spaces. It's too perfect, it's just right. So we're looking, with the oil and gas industry, it's just like almost a perfect match.
It is. And there was some point in history where people traveled out to West Texas and started digging holes to see what they could find, and they found really good things. Yeah. They took that risk and they understood it. And some of these companies, I've heard stories of they drilled 15 up to almost 20 wells before they finally hit. And then, and I hear this story from a fourth or fifth generation oil family, and I'm like, wow, I couldn't imagine being in the 1920s and doing that. But you know what? We can't imagine it, because right now we're in the space industry. We're trying to go into space. We're trying to mine the moon. We're trying to get to asteroids. We're trying to live on Mars. We're trying to do all these amazing things that are very hard. It's just going to take dedicated people who understand risk to get there.
100%. And that's the culture that's here.
Yeah.
The wildcatter. Right?
Every single person in Midland has a purpose, and I love it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's the space industry in general. You have to be bold to be in it. Look at Elon, right? SpaceX almost shouldn't be here.
Right.
He was going, he had crashed.
Yep.
And he was it. He was at the end of it.
He had 3 crashes, and that was what was planned. And it was like, well, we crashed the 3rd one, that was it. But he was able to scrap together that 4th one and get it done. And he had 3 crashes, not another one out of that.
Right.
Good stuff.
And it made it.
Yes.
And now he's throwing up so many, rockets back and forth.
Oh yeah.
And then he's catching them with chopsticks.
Yeah. Super cool stuff. It's pretty wild. Yeah. I say oftentimes it's a beautiful time to be alive. We have And the reason for that is there's multiple reasons. We have smartphones. That's super. We have the internet. That's super cool. But really what we have right now is artificial intelligence that's just helping us have access to information globally, rapidly and instantly. Then on top of that, you have the space thing that's going on right now. And that's super exciting. But like dig the onion layer back a little bit. We're building a military. That doesn't happen but once, every 100 years, maybe?
A full new branch.
A whole military organization. And so that's one thing I'm really excited about working with SFA is that we get to shape that. And as a warfighter, somebody who is in war, I don't want us to see us go to war. It's not my favorite pastime.
Right.
No surprise there. Yeah. And so I don't want my kids to have to go to war. I don't want our kids to have to go to war. And we have this opportunity now, if we proliferate space, and I'll tell you a great story about how we can proliferate later and how the effects of that are. If we can proliferate space, essentially everybody will know, like, hey, the good guys are here. Don't mess around, because they're not going to let bad actors. They're just not going to allow it. And so through space domain awareness, which is just being aware of everything that's in space and how it's behaving and how we can react to it, or lets us be more reactive to it, if anything is to go wrong. Earth observations allow us to do a lot of surveillance, gain information, and it keeps us a competitive advantage. Space is literally the high ground.
Right. BAM! Welcome to the BAM BizTalk podcast, where we cut through the fluff and dive straight into the real-world wins and lessons of entrepreneurship. This isn't just another podcast. It's your toolkit for building and learning what it really takes to grow and thrive in business as well as in life. I'm your humbly eccentric host, Angel Garcia, co-founder and CEO of BAM Entrepreneurial Center, and I'm here to pull back the curtain on the strategies, hacks, and habits of successful business owners who've been in the trenches. Each week, we'll bring you unfiltered stories from entrepreneurs who have been there, done that, and lived to tell the tale. We'll uncover the moments that shape their businesses, the wins, the stumbles, and the lessons they learned the hard way so you don't have to. It's about real talk, actionable insights, and practical strategies to help you go from where you are to where you want to be. So, if you're hungry for inspiration, thirsty for knowledge, and ready to make moves, you've found your tribe. So let's dive in, get real, and build something extraordinary. You're now tuned in to the BAM BizTalk podcast, the playbook for the bold.
Literally.
We had to bring Star Wars into
it. Yeah, that's how we do.
I have the high ground.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. The fact that innovation is brought on through protecting ourselves, security, through military innovation to fight war. Right?
Yes. It was explained to me, and this made a lot of sense. In the military cycle, you live in one of the 3 T's at any time. And the T's are training mode, tactical mode, or test mode. And you go into tactical mode because it's a warfighting time and you have to do that. Yeah. Before you go into tactical mode, you have to have training. Before you can have training, you must have equipment that is tested and fielded and safe for those people to receive that training and go to war with. So, and it's in that training mode, with the test mode that we're in right now. How fast can we make new things? We have to be able to test that. We need testing capacity and capabilities. Midland has the high altitude chambers. These are the largest. I don't know if you've seen them or not. Yeah. So they can simulate up to 200,000 feet in elevation. So it's essentially not a zero gravity environment, but it is a vacuum environment. So you don't have any particulates, anything going in there. You can achieve triple point, which is when when you have all 3. It's not all 3, but when you have 3 liquid, gas, and solid all at the same time, states of matter,
right? All
at the same time. So they'll do experiments where, and this is what they'll do. They'll take like some water and they'll put some red food coloring in it to kind of simulate blood or what have you. And then it'll hit triple point. And that is essentially whenever it is all 3 things at one time.
Wow.
They're able to do that in these chambers. And that shows that is specifically for space suit testing, or maybe fuselages that have to be sealed, things like that. And so that we have 3 chambers there, and they're the largest acrylic chambers in the world. High altitude.
Made of acrylic.
They're completely clear. So you can see under, above, from the sides, whereas historically these high altitude chambers are made out of metal,
right?
And they have like just a little porthole that you look through, and that's I don't think that's very great for observing experiments, but we have that capability in Midland. We use it often, and we were excited to see a lot more people use it here in the future.
That is super cool.
Right, that's one of the capabilities we have. Another one is that the Starfighter is moving out here. I'm sure you've heard of that one. Starfighter's the F-104. So those planes can go about Mach 2.2, which is 2.2 times the speed of sound, between around 100, 120,000 feet, which is quite high elevation, altitude. Great capability for testing equipment. We can put equipment in the nose cone, bring it up to that altitude. We can also do a lot of air launch testing, which is whenever you have rockets that you put on the bottom of a plane. Usually you have a fighter jet with missiles on it, right? Instead, we'll use that fighter plane, put rockets on it, and then load that rocket out with satellites. And then put that plane at altitude, and it'll just launch that rocket into space and deploy those satellites. So a fighter plane turns into a logistics vehicle. It's very just being innovative and using, I call it the country boy way. Use what you have at your feet and see what you can come up with that. And from there, you'll see new technologies birthed.
Wow. That's amazing. Because you're taking a war, you know.
yeah, you got to use what you have. This is your bucket of tools. Right. Make a solution with it.
Yeah.
And that's what the Permian Basin does. Is a lot of people in Texas do. That's our attitude about it. We don't talk about it. We be about it, and so we just do it. Yeah. And so using what we have is one of a Texan's strength, and being competitive is another Texan's strength.
Well, I think that goes hand in hand. When you're resourceful,
right,
you're able to be competitive.
Absolutely.
That's probably the best competitive advantage that you could have. Be resourceful. Use what you have to optimize.
Exactly.
Because if somebody it's always use this comparison, the kid who had all the nice equipment in baseball,
the brand new bat and all that stuff,
everything, right?
Most advanced bat.
But then you get the scrappy kid who didn't have all that, hustling,
right? Taped up bat, all that stuff. Still, and he doesn't miss.
Right. It's the same thing. You know, we're scrappy, and that's a huge advantage for us.
Absolutely. Texas, and across the state, we're seeing we have 3 Texas flags on the moon now. I know we talk about that quite often, and it's such a fun subject to bring up.
Yeah.
Because it really shows from Texas to the moon, we own the space economy. There is nobody else competing with us at this level in the world, in the history of humanity either.
Yeah.
No commercial company in the history of the world has ever been to the moon.
Right.
We've done it 3 times.
3 times.
3-time world champions, man. And so we're going to keep doing it. SpaceX put the largest thing into space. That's a Texas company. And so that happened last year too. So we're breaking records. We plan to break our own records more and more. And this is every community. I mean, almost every community in Texas is coming alive to this. You have El Paso now building into a spaceport, connecting corridors with our Midland spaceport, which would be amazing.
Yeah.
You have Houston spaceport. They're doing a lot of testing out there. They have Venus Aerospace. That's a hypersonic development for a space plane. And connecting these infrastructures is what's going to allow us to really go forward into the 2030 and the 2040s of space. And that's where the regular folks like us get to travel to space, hopefully one day. I know we got to see yesterday. It was Katy Perry and crew.
Yeah.
With the Blue Origin right down the road in Van Horn, man.
Right down
the road.
So
you can do whatever you want in West Texas.
Yeah.
Send Katy Perry to space. We'll do it.
No, that's cool that, the images that they were showing, and, they were only up there for a brief period of time, but just the awareness of that, just kids seeing that.
Right.
Wow.
I'm glad you bring up the kids. That's the most important, in my opinion right now, the most important thing we can do for our space economy. I work with space people every single day across the state of Texas, and they work very hard. They go to bed thinking about this. They wake up thinking about it. Their kids have to think about it because we aren't talking about anything else except proliferating space, because the U.S. absolutely must have dominance in that domain if we do not have the high ground.
We're vulnerable.
Exactly. And I don't like to be vulnerable.
No.
We deserve better. So
absolutely.
The AST Mobile is right here in Midland High School, and the Firefly in Cedar Park is in every middle school and high school in Central. And the same thing for Intuitive Machines out of Houston. All these major companies are doing major things for our space industry. They're not going to be the same people doing them forever.
Right.
And we have to be able to turn the baton over, because these technologies are generations to develop. To have interplanetary humanities, we have to make agreements with our grandkids that it's that serious.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen within one generation.
Right.
And so getting involved with workforce development, education, especially space STEM education, is absolutely critical right now. I did Navy, I did electronics, and then I got out and started doing commercial robotic development in Austin. I've done a few of those products. And I was hanging out with the mechanical engineers, and I used to make fun of them, like, oh, you just build boxes. And then I kind of like sat down with them and, like, what's the machine process? And, what's the eutectic attachments and all that? How do you come up with all this stuff? And I really enjoyed their job. I think I would have liked that job a lot more, but nobody sat down and educated me on the various opportunities between software, firmware, mechanical engineering. It's like, no, electrical engineering, these are electrons, they go through things and they do stuff, and you got to learn all that. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Sure. And then, 10 years, 15 years later, I realized, like, oh, I might have liked building boxes a little more. But anyway, and so it's getting in front of the kids now and just showcasing them all the opportunities. We planes flying, we can see tanks on the air, we can see ships in the water, can't see submarines, but we can't see satellites either.
Right.
And so getting them an understanding of what that domain looks like, how they can participate in it at an early as an age as possible, we want that. Space Force Association is focused on delivering that message throughout the Permian Basin, especially in Midland. On May the 4th, you got to do the Star Wars thing. We actually are going to be hosting a planetarium event for children to come out and explore the stars in the planetarium, and it's just be solely dedicated to children that day.
So really dig into that a little bit more. What does it involve?
Oh, so on that day, we have to 50 seats. I think we're going to allow 40 kids and 10 adults. So we have some supervision there.
Yeah.
So that we can have a planetarium experience, and these children can talk to space leaders and thought leaders in this arena about the future of space and what that looks like. And if they have any questions, man, kids ask the best questions.
Yeah.
The one kid asked me where the color blue comes from, and I'm like, that's a primary color, man. I don't know where they make those colors from. I don't know, dude. They're great questions.
This is that we don't think to ask.
Right. You accept it. Yeah. We accept these things as facts and move on with our lives, and we get older and our brains just solidify that. These kids, they're still soft, and so they ask these very unique questions.
Which is a perfect time for them to be exposed to the things.
Right. I don't know how much Jupiter weighs. I'll work on that. Sorry, kids. but we plan on hosting them, showcasing them what domain is, and as far as what people are doing in space and why they're doing it, and what their opportunities are in the future of that. And we have some pretty big plans for 2030, 2040, and 2050.
Can you talk about those a little?
Yeah. So, I mean, I call it the new space movement. And so say, if you use old space tools to build new space, you'll end up with old space, and we all lose. What does new space mean? New space means that we're refueling satellites. This is actually having a space economy. This is tow trucks and gas stations in space, man. It's not just research and exploration anymore. It's not just the same old space stuff. It's not sending one satellite up with one sensor to do one job. It's a company who makes a satellite that can hold 12 payloads and do 12 jobs. That's innovation. It's an innovation that we need in the space industry. That refueling satellites, for God's sakes, could you imagine if you went out and bought a car and it had to just you bought that car and it came with all the gas you wanted to use it for 5 years. And you had to plan all that out. You need a trailer and an 18-wheeler and probably another 18,
The logistics are just...
That's old space. We're not doing that. We can't do that anymore. We just can't. We have to be able to refuel satellites. We have to be able to update and upgrade our satellites. We need in-orbit services where people can attach the satellites and install firmware or put on a new black box, whatever that black box is, and upgrade. So then we have billions of dollars of satellites up there. We need to update them. We need to upgrade them. We need to refuel them. This is the new space stuff. Now, bring up, and what gets really interesting is medicine in space. What happened? Space is zero gravity environment. It's also a very clean environment. It's not like our atmosphere. We have all these particles. There's not very many particles up there.
Right.
So you can almost compare space to a gravity clean room for manufacturing things. And whenever you manufacture anything in a clean room, you get very good stuff. Well, if you remove gravity from the medical industry, they can crystalline medicines, which is a super concentrated form of medication, and then recover that from space onto Earth, and then use that medication. It's a lot cheaper than it is to make that medicine on Earth and to distribute it. That's what we'll find out.
So it's in the creation process itself.
Right.
And so when you come back with gravity, it maintains.
Oh, yeah. It stays in a crystalline state. But because you're in a zero gravity environment and it's completely clean, you can make a lot more of it than if you had to do that on Earth, you'd need a giant clean room. I don't know about the gravity thing. A better example, or a more relevant example to grasp, would be debris remediation. There are suspected over 1 million pieces of debris in space.
I was going to ask you that.
I'll share a website with you, and so that everybody can see it too. I love this website. It's called Privateer Wayfinder. I was created out of University of Texas by with a gentleman named Marie. I'll get you the link. And anyway, it showcases everything that's in space that is from space radars here on Earth. And so we have radars on Earth that send their signals up into space. They reflect back, and we use that data to say that this is a thing in space, whatever it may be. Interesting enough, Leo Labs installed a space radar out here in West Texas back in 2016. It was their first commercial space radar. Wow. That is a very important company to our national security. They provide all space domain awareness, not all, but they provide a substantial amount of space domain awareness through those radars. And so they use those radars to monitor everything that's going on, and then we populate huge, really cool looking maps on the internet so that everybody can look at it. But they speculate there's over 1 million pieces of debris. You can only see on these maps maybe 40,000 pieces because these radars and these telescopes that they're using to look into space, they have a resolution, just like you would with binoculars or something like that. If you're looking for a really big bird, it's easy to see. But if you're looking for a really small bird at distance, you're probably not going to see it. Right. And so as debris is suspected below 10 centimeters, some people say maybe below 4 centimeters, we just can't see it.
Right.
And so a paint chip, a nut, a bolt, a broken head off of a bolt, you're not going to see that.
Yeah.
And that's traveling in low Earth orbit at 17,000 miles an hour. And I mean, you can't even see it. If you were out there, you wouldn't even see it coming.
Wow.
You wouldn't see it coming. You wouldn't see it going. You just get hit.
Wow.
It's that the good. It's relative in space. So I guess if you were going at the co-orbital with it and coplanar, then you would see it pretty just fine. But no, that at those speeds, it's not, and that size, it's not possible to see it. I think the International Space Station was hit by a paint chip in 22 or 23 and had life support services. Discontinued for a little while. By a paint chip, from what I understand. Yeah.
Wow. And it caused that much damage?
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's moving so fast.
Right. And it's kinetic energy at that point. And so I don't remember the equation off the top of my head, but I've done the math on it where a 10 centimeter piece of debris at 17,000 miles an hour, if you were head on at 17,000 miles an hour in low Earth orbit, that would be equivalent to Moab, the mother of all bombs. It's the largest airburst round that we can produce on Earth.
Wow.
You would see miles of destruction in space. We would definitely see that happen. We would see a pop in space, right?
For reference, how fast is your bullet shot out of like
900 feet per second, maybe 1,200 feet per second. This is going 30-something thousand
right
meters per second. So yeah, it's
kilometers per second.
It's really fast.
Yeah.
So that's 10 centimeters. You go all the way down to 1 centimeter, it's still deadly. It's the of being shot with a 9 millimeter at point blank range. The kinetic energy of one piece of debris hitting another 1 centimeter piece of debris is equivalent to a 9 millimeter.
Wow, that puts it in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because 1 millimeter, that's
good. I can't find anything that's 1 millimeter around me.
No.
And if it hit me, I wouldn't even know. But no, it would satellite. It would definitely hinder its ability to do its job. Then on top of that, we do have bad actors. And with space itself is a contested domain, and this is something that the Space Force is set up to correct. The mission of the Space Force is to provide dominance into and from space, U.S. and allied dominance. So we need our international partners as much now as we can, as ever, because. And it's strange to me, in the Navy, if you told me that the U.S. Navy did not have dominance on sea,
Wait, what?
That's not you can't say that. Nobody can ever say that.
No.
The U.S. Navy has 3 times more displacement than the Chinese Navy. So like we have 3 million pounds of displacement for our boats. They have 1 million. Whereas in space, man, we don't have dominance. I can't imagine what that would be like for a military service. And we can. So right now there was a study put out a few weeks ago, and I'll send you that study. But essentially, we're losing to China in 2 facets. Everything else we're right on par with them, but one of them is I was just about being able to refuel in space, and then also the moving stuff around in space or in space services. So it's like they're able to actually move satellites around. They're also able to refuel satellites, and that's something we're not able to do. And that is that stuff that gives you an upper hand in the higher ground. If you're able to, for example, if I put satellites up, and then they need to be in an inclination so that they can do a job. And an inclination is just it's a road. Let's call it it's like a road. And inclinations are basically bands that go around Earth, and we all have inclinations to have our own specific job. You can be an inclination that just goes around the North Pole or the South Pole.
Right.
Well, if a satellite is supposed to meet internet over Texas, and somebody keeps moving it over Nevada or California or the Pacific Ocean, I'm not going to get internet. Right. If I need specific data from that satellite and somebody keeps moving it out of the way, I'm not going to get that data. And if they do it enough, I'm not going to have enough fuel to move that satellite back to its position ever again. Right. And that's the kind of stuff that's not warfare, but it's just to treat strategically a disadvantage for us. There's that's the kind of things that we're losing at.
So they would be to move our satellites.
Right. But we don't have the ability to do that. I mean, we probably could if we needed to, but we don't have a commercial solution for that. We do not have the ability commercially to attach to another satellite and affect anything.
Is that an initiative that's being worked on? Yes,
it is. And so Orbit Fab is working on refueling in space, and part of that refueling in space is being able to attach to a satellite and manipulate that satellite in a way to refuel it.
Okay.
We do attachments with the International Space Station and things like that. But as far as, two satellites working together, very, very new space.
It's new space stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we're working on. That's what we're moving towards.
Right. All in all, that in hopes of creating this economy. A space economy is when terrestrial people on Earth are paying services in space. And that's when we're paying for a satellite to be refueled in space by another satellite. This entire thing happens in space. Or medicine being manufactured in space, and we're paying for that medication. Being in a zero-G environment, we found that you can print organs. And instead of where on gravity, imagine you're going to print a lung.
Yeah.
And lungs have to inflate and deflate. If you print it on gravity, it's just going to be a flat thing.
Yeah.
Right? If you do it in space, it's actually the shape of a lung. And when you're done printing it, done making it, manufacturing it in space, you bring it back down, it can deflate. And it's fine. It can be reinflated too because it's made the way it's supposed to be. I touched on space debris remediation, but a Space Cowboy and a lot of people are working on this where they want to be able to capture space debris and then bring that to a depot in space that can sinter or separate that material into different types of materials. And then imagine we crush it into a powder and we can make filaments out of that can then be utilized for printing again.
3D printing.
The 3D printing, advanced manufacturing.
Wow.
Advanced manufacturing, printing habitats on the moon.
Yeah.
3D printing fuel in space, 3D printing parts and materials that we need in space. When we're paying for those things to happen, that's when we have a space economy.
Right. You just blew my mind with the lungs.
Yes. Yeah. That one cracked my brain too. It was like, wait, people are, and it was like, you got to explain to me. And they're like, it's simple. It's just because it's zero-G and it's a clean room. And the same thing I explained to you.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I can't argue.
It does. It's like, wow. Okay, we're in the future.
Right. Yeah. And touring space is going to be great. But the more we explore space, there's obviously a big push to get to the moon. And a lot of people. Number one, it's cool. We from childbirth to whoever we appreciate the moon.
Yeah.
You see it but you can't touch it type of thing. Right. And so being able to go out and touch it is really cool. But what do we want from the moon? Well, there's resources on the moon that can help us dramatically. For example, there is a particular element called helium-3 that has been found on the moon. With 16 ounces of helium-3, we could run the city of Midland for a year. It is that much energy dense. It's that high energy dense of an element. On top of it as well, we have water and ice they've discovered on the moon, right? And we could take that water and we can turn it into hydrogen peroxide. Highly concentrated hydrogen peroxide, and then that for refueling in space. So there's resources on the moon, just like there's resources under the ground in Permian Basin that we should be going after. And it's the mining industries, it's the geologists that are helping us get there, actually.
Wow.
Right.
Okay, so helium, and it would be through a nuclear reaction?
Yes. It's a fusion
like
for power.
Yeah.
Right. And so imagine one day there's people in helium-3, and that's economy that exists in 2050 or 2080 maybe, or maybe 2100, where there are people on the moon collecting helium-3 for money, and that's their job, and that's what they want to do. And they're using that helium-3 to power cities or habitats or townships or whatever on the moon.
You know, I'm a big proponent of nuclear.
Yes,
and I
same.
believe we should really be using it much more.
Yes,
right?
yes,
Like,
agreed.
it just got cut off, right?
Hydrogen too.
There's
Yeah, both of them.
and there's this big like a negative connotation,
Agreed.
you know, to it, and everybody's scared about it. But then when you talk to people one-on-one, everybody's like, a lot of people seem to be afraid.
Yeah.
You know, and so you know we have this issue here in the Permian Basin with the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then especially now, you know, everybody when we're throwing produced water back in the ground,
Mm-hmm.
we're starting to get earthquakes, right? So there's so much water, right? What do we do with that water? Well, that could also be used to cool down nuclear reactors.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
From here.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a symbiosis. You know?
Yes. It's that country boy.
Yes,
Resources you got to
resources
the
we got.
best of your ability to make the most impact you can.
And then with all the liquid, the natural gas we have,
Yes.
you know, this is just what people burn it just because it's too expensive to keep.
To move it. Yeah. That's hopefully we see that more country boy model, right?
Yeah.
We have natural gas on the ground, underground, right? We also have untouched airspace.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a lot of land. So it would not be a stretch of the imagination to say that West Texas should be launching rockets to space. No. It's not a stretch at all. The launch tempo that we have, you know, we launched yesterday. They launched from Van Horn. They launched from Boca Chica all the time. They launched from Cape Canaveral and Vandenberg. And now Wallops Island is launching. Stennis launches. Wallops is launching commercially now. And Stennis is launching as well. It's still not enough. We need dominance in space. We need to proliferate space with good actors.
Hey there, bookworms and knowledge seekers. Ever wished you could find everything you need in one place? Look no further than the Ector County Library. We're not just about books, though we've got plenty of those, from the latest page-turners to classic favorites. We're talking free high-speed internet, tech classes to boost your skills, and awesome programs for all ages. Kids can dive into storytime adventures, teens can hang out and study, and adults can join book clubs or learn something new. There's always something exciting happening at the library. So whether you're a student looking for homework help, a job seeker needing resources, or just someone who loves to learn, we've got you covered. Swing by your local Ector County Library and see what we're all about. It's more than just books. It's a whole world of possibilities. Ector County Library. Your adventure starts here.
The BAM BizTalk podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, Pachuco's Restaurant. Craving authentic and eclectic cuisine in Midland? Well, Pachuco's has you covered. Located in downtown Midland at the ever-so-legendary and iconic historic building at 316 North Big Spring Street, Pachuco's blends rich and unique flavors in a conveniently pleasant and vibrant atmosphere. Enjoy the highest quality barbecue, savory tacos, burgers, and a variety of other mouth-watering dishes that reflect the spirit of a true Pachuco cuisine. Real, authentic, and just plain different. Check out their menu at www.pachucos432.com or call 432-218-8806 to inquire, or better yet, just show up and get your shine on. At Pachucos, where heritage, exquisite taste, and hospitality come together for an unforgettable dining experience. Pachucos, Midland, Texas. Now back to the show.
And so that means we need to be able to launch into space as much as we can.
Yeah.
There is no limit to that. How long is a piece of string? I don't know. I don't care. We're going to get all of it to space, though. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And so it's not a stretch of the imagination to say that West Texas could and should be launching rockets into space within the next 10 years. Okay. There's enough demand there, and we do have the capacity, the capital, and the capability.
Right.
But what gets really unique about it is what the country boy model, right? What do we have here to make the best vertical launch system? We have natural gas. We have natural gas right here under the ground. We have not pipelines, but wells already drilled for them. And then you can utilize that natural gas for making energy locally at a site, on site. That's reliability right there. Yeah. And then you can also use it for data processing, which is very, very important to space people, aerospace, and just in government operations in general. And then on top of that, liquefied natural gas mixed with an oxidizer is rocket fuel. And that brings me into Senate Bill 1715, where we've produced, not Space Force Association, but another organization in the state of Texas produced this policy where they want to see anything that has from research to development to actually launching in space, as well as the space supply chain, be rewarded for their activity over the next 10 years to bring that U.S. dominance to space, to proliferate space in the way that we need to. So the state of Texas is reviewing policy right now that through Senate Bill 1715 that would reduce the franchise taxes of a space company, also making all sales tax to space activities, sales tax exempt. The interesting thing about that, in that bill, it also talks about propellants and fuels. This is an opportunity for oil and gas to get involved with building infrastructure that the space industry needs. Trust me, I'm a space guy. You do not want me out here pumping pipes, man. You don't want that.
No.
All right. I want y'all doing it. And so when it comes to these infrastructures, these massive infrastructures that require a lot of power, a lot of moving things, we should rely on these industries and they should be rewarded for it. Oil and gas and the industries in Permian Basin have this opportunity as long as that bill gets passed.
Okay.
Then they would be able to say, hey, we are a space activity now, and we are providing this infrastructure, and we are doing research and development on propellants and how to utilize natural gas to improve the space domain.
So we need to get our people to write our congressmen and senators.
Yes, absolutely. Senator Sparks and House Representative Craddock would love to hear about this. They love talking space.
Oh, that's amazing. They have to be.
Yes. Texas is globally dominating, so they get on it.
So if you could send me that, so I'll put it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And man, need to emphasize how important that is to communicate with your elected officials.
Absolutely. Industry is going to do a lot, and they have been doing a lot. You see, then you have the university side of the house or the research and exploration side of the house with NASA. You have nonprofit research institutes like SWERI in Texas. Those two legs work really well together. On the government side, they work really well with the universities and the research and exploration. But with the commercial space stuff coming online, we need to get industry and government talking because government needs to understand the needs of this industry and also understand the burden this industry's been put under to develop not only the technology but the infrastructure and the test capabilities. All of it has been put on the burden of this small business with this great idea. They just want to go clean up debris in space or launch rockets, and now they have to figure out how to build a road with easement, with power lines, then get permits to have bipropellant fuels. Like that's a burden, and it's not exciting to talk about. It's not exciting to do. I came here to make rockets and missiles. What is all this other stuff?
What is it?
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff where government should step in and help out.
Absolutely.
Because this is, without dominance in the space domain, we're going to have problems, serious problems.
And I feel it's kind of been ignored. Right.
Yeah. I think it's so different and people can't see it. It's one of those, well, I don't want to step out of my lane and nobody really sees the problem. So we're just going to be silent about it. Right. And then sometimes people realize, well, nobody else sees the problem. So I'm just going to go and say a bunch of stuff. And that doesn't help either. Right. It's a collective voice across the state of Texas, across all communities from El Paso County to Orange County, saying that Texas is here to work together. Yeah. And so we see universities working together in a different way now. We see workforce development occurring across universities for the space industry. These are all great things happening. I would love to see, like I said, a lot more space STEM education occurring. Yes. And now Midland ISD has over 26,000 students in its public schools. Eckerd County or Odessa next door has over 43,000 students in its public schools. That's about 70,000 kids. I say we should shotgun every single space STEM opportunity in the world that we can find. Yeah. Put them in front of them. Let the good ones stay and let the bad ones fall off. At least they got the opportunity to fail, at least. And so there's that part of it. And also, I'm going to get older one day. I don't want to do that forever. Love to turn this over to the next generation.
I think that's the exciting part about it. Yeah. Because if you're working so hard, you're passionate about something, and to see it die when you die. Right. That's you don't want that.
Not at all.
We want this to be carried on. Like you said, we have to write a letter to our grandkids or something. Like, hey, you got to keep this.
Right.
And I think what we're doing is exposing them to it, right? Especially when they're in school. Just all elements of school you mentioned earlier. So there's your public school kids, and there's your homeschool, private school, right? Like, how do we get to all of them?
And that's a great question. It's nobody's fault. Yeah. We need to just publish a lot more stuff. The Space Force Association, we're going to be doing some stuff at the planetarium here on May the 4th. But on top of that, we have Space Nation here in Midland. They do a lot of hands-on space education. Their Space Force Cadet Corps is a really cool opportunity. We're looking at bringing that into Midland. I had a conversation with Stanley Kennedy today about that, actually. The Space Force Cadet Corps is your entry point for going into ROTC for the Space Force. If you want to join the Space Force or if you want to get involved with the space industry, Space Force Cadet Corps will teach you about cybersecurity, will teach you about artificial intelligence and software. It also teach you about space operations. At the age of, I think they start at 11.
Oh, man.
Man, when you start teaching kids young and they start getting their hands on stuff, you see some crazy things happen. I've told this story a few times about a drone company I was working with. They were doing hydrogen generation in drones. And in 2023, it was mostly 19-year-old kids. They were MIT and Harvard students that had invented some really cool stuff and gotten some small investment. They set up a lab at MIT, Lincoln Labs. They also set up a lab in Austin, and that's where they met me and a few other of our really awesome DoD people in Austin. And that when I looked into it, when I was working with them, and I asked, it's like, well, how old were you when you started 3D printing? 12. When did you build your first computer? 12, 11. When did you start using machines to like a lathe and a press? And they didn't put it down. They just kept doing it. And by the time they were 15, 16, they had successful businesses that were building computers, building servers, fixing 3D printers for other companies. They're kids. And then they go to these amazing institutes like MIT and Harvard. They invent some pretty wild stuff. Getting them involved with the things that are exciting to them when their brains are still soft and the creativity is still strong.
Right.
And that's when you see them at 19 years old, raised $84 million.
Wow.
Right. Crazy.
Man.
And so we have that opportunity here right now in Midland, in the Permian Basin. We just need to start educating these kids on these advanced technologies, on these emerging technologies, allow them to get their hands on them. And SFA works with a lot of organizations to make sure that this happens. We have the Texas Battle Bowl coming up.
Yes.
And so that's esports. Esports is huge. Huge. It teaches you how to solve problems. And esports are for everyone. There's video game competitions, all right?
Yeah.
We never grew up.
Nor do we want to.
No, and we don't have to.
No.
The game competitions, the esports, what we've seen nationally right now, 1 in 5 kids are legally truant. They are in trouble with a judge for not going to school enough. But nationally, yes.
Wow.
Esports fixes that because when you attach an activity like that to their attendance and their grade, they're always going to show up to play video games with their friends. And they're always going to show up to school whenever that's attached to their grade. Yeah. And so you see, I think it's an over 80% increase in GPAs and in attendance with students who did not have an after-school activity prior to that esports getting installed. Now, not every school is going to have an grade pool for training swimmers. Not every school is going to be able to have an esports arena either. And so working with Urgent Fury and the Texas Battle Bowl, by the way, the Texas Battle Bowl is in July 10th this year. It's going to be hosted at the Bush Conference Center. I'm expecting 1,500 participants. Huge competition, national competition happening here in Midland. It's going to be a great time. But to go into the next level, like Urgent Fury and those teams, they get scholarships to go to college. Yeah. They win real money. They do great with this. Yeah. And they're also able to make money on streaming and all these other content services, this new world stuff.
It's amazing. I've been learning about this with Jesse's Skyfox Studio, and it's amazing.
I met a guy in 2023, maybe it was 2022. He had made $21 million a year before. And I was like, and he was streaming video games. And me and all the old heads were in the conference room, and this guy's about to walk in, and we're like, what in the world? How did he make $21 million? Yeah. How did he do that? And I'm with one guy who made $370-something million the year before that. And it's like, he's scratching his head, like, I don't know. And so the guy comes in and he says, well, I have 30 million followers. And as long as each one gives me $1, and throughout the year, at the end of the year, I'll have $30 million. Okay, that particular year, the year before that, he had 7 million followers, and they all gave him like $4 on average, something like that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Entrepreneurs and small business owners, are you searching for ways of taking your business to the next level? BAM is your answer. We specialize in crafting high-performance marketing strategies that put your brand front and center right in the palm of your customers' hands. Not only can we create a premium website full of features that optimize your social media and digital marketing presence, but we ensure that your brand gets multiple views from your target audience and even those visiting your competition. BAM is your go-to solution in the Permian Basin. But we're not just about digital and social media marketing. We're a one-stop shop offering a spectrum of services, including business mentorship, strategic planning, market research, and access to capital. That's right. We can get you funding to expand your business. With BAM, you're not just getting a service, you're gaining a partner committed to your growth for the life of your business. So why wait? Kickstart your journey to success today. Call us to set up a free consultation and discover how BAM can help your business soar above the rest. 432-247-8840. Call today and get your business launched.
Wow. Yeah, just the whole esports thing. The Olympics is now going to have
And esports, yes.
right? So the
It's
pipeline.
it's hard to ignore.
No, you can't ignore.
Right.
Right. And you can't just say, oh, for the lazy losers, stuck in
Yeah.
the basement and what. No, it's quite the opposite.
Right.
The one interesting fact that really got me: surgeons who play sport, who play game.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
They're statistically perform.
Yeah. With more accuracy
More
and more repeatable accuracy. And really it goes hand in hand with whole Alzheimer's and dementia patients who start playing video games. They're doing problem solving, repetitive processes where they have to remember how to get through the game or get through the puzzle. It helps with them in the same way it helps with surgeons, in the same way it helps with kids learning command and control, how to react very fast to changing environments. I think it's a wonderful thing. I wasn't a baseball kid or a football kid. If there was a robotics club, I would have been there, but there wasn't one.
Yeah. Right.
And so I got a job.
It's the availability part of it, and creating that pipeline now, getting something that kids will be passionate about while they're young.
Right.
Start them off young, have programs to train them.
Yes.
Like we do athletes.
Yes.
We train. We train.
There's a soccer camp, a baseball camp, a football camp, but it's like, where do I send my 9-year-old who wants to learn coding?
Yeah. Who wants nothing to do with
Right.
sports or band,
Right.
or anything else, which, and don't get me wrong, I was in band.
Yeah.
I played ball.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No. It's great.
Right.
Right. And I can only hold 20 people.
Yeah. New Space doesn't need a band. It doesn't. It doesn't need a football team either. What we need are people who are proficient at command and control and operating in complex environments.
Yeah.
And he does that.
Absolutely. And it helps guide them along. So, the kids that fall through the cracks, right? Just because there is nothing for them, right?
Yeah.
And a system doesn't know how to individualize. They don't know how to take care of that one kid who's fallen.
Right. When 20% of the nation is truant.
Yeah. That's
it's clear the crack's big.
Yeah.
Big crack.
Yeah.
But yeah, that there's a gap serving our youth, our next generation as we should be. There's also I see a huge awareness on what we are looking to do in our future with Steven. A lot of people, you get on a plane, it's gone the same speed our whole lives, and nobody asks why.
Yeah.
We just accept that that's how fast planes go, and that's just not true, sir. They can go very much faster than that.
I just what's up? They're talking about. You remember they had the Concords?
Yeah.
back in the 80s? Well, they're bringing it back.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and
Not
it's
the
Concorde,
right.
but new design that's mind blowing.
Yeah, there's a bunch of companies, not a bunch. There's quite a few companies doing that. It's quite interesting. So in 1970, the FAA regulated supersonic flight as no-go. They had conducted where they asked people about the sonic booms caused by supersonic flight. When you go above the speed of sound, you break the speed of sound and it makes a sound. It makes noise. Sonic boom is what you'll experience. So they essentially the survey came back and was like, sonic booms are not good. We're not dealing with it. Now, at that particular time, we were kind of dealing with Cold War, and if you hear a big boom in the earth, it's highly concerning. We did the survey again, I think it was in 1974, and then they didn't do the survey again until 1994. But even today, we are still regulated from commercially flying supersonic because of that 1970 regulation by the FAA. So nowadays, commercial markets, they're not going to play that. They're going to say, no, we're going to go faster, and FAA is going to have to adapt. And that's exactly what they're doing. So building extremely safe planes that can go above the speed of sound so that we can begin to have supersonic flight again. What that does for us, so going let's say you go half the speed of sound, going Mach 1 would just get us everywhere twice as fast.
Yeah.
So our flight from Austin to Midland would be 20 minutes instead of 40.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's now. And just that's a very small increment.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about going Mach 1.5, Mach 1.7, that Midland Austin trip becomes 10 minutes.
Man, yeah.
Going from Houston to France becomes a few hours, and that's really cool. So you have the supersonic commercial flight that's really looking into it. And a really cool workshop every year in Midland about it. They've operated for 7 years. MITRE come out. MITRE's the I describe them as the research and development arm of the FAA. We have FAA come out as well. We have NASA come out. Space Force Association we represent. We have a few other military branches come out, and then all the commercial high-speed flyers from Radiant Space, Venus Aerospace. They're producing planes that are going faster, hypersonic speeds, faster than Mach 5.
Wow.
Yeah, those are for space.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And then, well, 5, we have our supersonic flyers between Mach 1 and Mach 5, and that's where we're able to fly around the world very rapidly. It'd be really nice to do what's called point-to-point. Now, point-to-point, you brought up the chopsticks, the Starship being called by chopsticks. What happens in a world where you can get 500,000 tons across the world in 45 minutes? What happens to the warfighting arena? What happens to strategy?
It changes everything.
Exactly. And so we have that capability through Starship. And catching with the chopsticks was essentially to prove out that we can land this else and do cool things with it. The Chinese have already been in this, though. They launch rockets from East China and land them in West China around the world.
Wow.
And so, whatever we have, they're doing it too. And if we do have it and don't have it, it's a matter of short time, weeks before they have it. It's great to have a connected world, but it's also dangerous.
Right. Is China the only other major player?
No. So if China and Russia allied together in a space war, we could ally with the entire world and probably lose, because we are the best space situation in the world. And then, we're competing with two other the top. So if we're number 1, China's number 2, and Russia's number 3, it doesn't matter who we get,
right.
4 through 100. They're not going to beat the number 3.
Right.
SEC football taught everybody else that.
But
and so that's where the things get hairy. We can't. I saw this, and then I'll tell a quick story about proliferation. I was in the Navy. I think I was deployed in 2009. I woke up one morning and I went off to the fan. I smoke cigarettes and drink coffee in the morning when I wake up and watch the sunrise in the Pacific Ocean. If you get the chance to sit on the back of a warship first thing in the morning, smoke a cigarette, drink a cup of coffee, you'll enjoy it, I promise.
Yeah.
Well, I go out there to do my morning routine, and there's 3 Chinese warships off of our fantail. I mean, they were so close. I could see the Chinese sailors' name tape on their coveralls. I could see their stupid mustache, everything. They were close, really close to us. And so I go into our room where we deal with those kind of problems. And what are we going to do? What's the plan here? I'm just the radar guy. I'm going to watch, obviously. And they say, well, we're going to get behind them. They're us. And so we spent 3 days and we got behind them and then tailing us around. And essentially what they were doing, they were trying to proliferate us. With 3 warships, they're just going to follow us around and collect all of our data, and then we're not going to be able to do anything for our mission. The U.S. Navy builds the fastest in the world, the ships in the world, and because we use the best steel in the world, and we use the best welders in the world, and we have the best sailors in the world. So our ship just was out competitive with them, outcompeted them in every metric as far as that was concerned. It got to the point where it was like, okay, this is getting old. So we tried to bring them cookies, genuinely. And it's like, hey, and they'd run away and come right back. And so there's a particular flag, and in the Navy we don't call them flags, we call them signals. But we'll call it a flag here. It's called a battle ensign, and the battle ensign is basically the American flag. But a U.S. Navy warship is about 500 foot long. This flag is probably half the length of that warship. Oh, wow. And so it's like, yeah, you see the battle come up, that America's here. Right. It's this. And so if you can see about the ocean in any direction, you can see that battle ensign anywhere. Yeah. You look out, you don't see ships, you see an American flag, right? The moment we put that up, they ran, never came back. And it was because they knew, like, this is it. We're done playing. America's here. We're going to do what we're going to do, and you're going to deal with it. And so taking that same type of situation to space, where the bad actors, they look over their shoulder, they see a Texas flag, hopefully an American flag at the least, and they go, well, you know what? The good guys are here. We won't make it 15 minutes if we do this. We're not going to be allowed. That just, it's like your parents are as a child. Right? That's the best way to put it. We need to put as much stuff into space as we can. We need to proliferate space. We need to operate that space domain. And we need to make money off of it too. And it's through those activities that our government will be more aware and be more protective over it. And we'll see our generations thrive and want to protect it. And we'll prevent war. We need to go to war, and the last thing we want or need is a space war.
Right.
But we can prevent it now. We can start with going to our children and not telling them about space war, but giving them opportunities to do commercialization space, this new space stuff that's super cool. Optical communications between satellites, laser talk. Yeah. All this kind of stuff is real, and they can get involved with it. Going into our academic sector and understanding and helping them understand where research needs to be pointed at so that we can have this proliferated space domain. And then also defensibility on it, and working with our government, our DoD for maintaining that, or for achieving that. All of this can be done on an industry level. That's the unique thing about the Space Force and this opportunity. When somebody rolled the battlefield, there wasn't a tank store for us to go to and go like, hey, they got tanks. We need a tank. No, they went to the car companies and they're like, hey, can you make a thing that stops that thing? Yeah. And so that was same thing with jets and all these other things. But when it comes to space, we've been interacting and researching and exploring space for the last 60 plus years. Yeah. So there's a major commercial market that the space can go into, tap into, and gain capabilities. I think it's and that's really the unique part. It's not warfare anymore. It's just strategic dominance.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's essential.
Yeah.
Essential to establish. And with time, especially as time goes on, who knows what that actually.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like, if nobody ever made a fighter jet, and then all of a sudden there's an A-10 Warthog flying around. Yeah. Like, what do you do? And nobody's ever seen a fighter jet or heard of a fighter jet or talked about it. Yeah, it's a very different arena. If somebody was to make something that suddenly was able to defeat everybody, that's a very possible reality we live in now.
Right. Right. And we, like you said, we have to be the first to the.
Right. Yeah. We just have to. And it's not that China's bad or negative like that. It's just that we have allied partners, and we have agreements for how we operate in space, and China's not part of those agreements, and that makes us all very uncomfortable.
For sure.
We would really like to see world peace, right? Whatever that looks like. But yeah, with Midland, we have the opportunity here to make a big difference on a national level, and we already are. Midland is in 2014 that spaceport. It was the first spaceport with connected to civil aviation services. The idea was that you would go, you'd take a flight from Dallas, wherever, land in Midland, walk across the terminal, and get on your space flight. Very cool, right? Yeah, and that's still possible. We just have to work towards it, and that it's going to take, like I said, some of these things are generational growth. Yeah. We don't have flights to space commonly. We probably won't for a long time, but we will and do require a spaceport to exist so that we can develop towards it. The next step right now with the spaceport in Midland, we get sensors laid out. We need to get those F-104s flying so that we can certify the corridor. That's a 350-mile supersonic, hypersonic corridor. Wow. Once we start flying stuff, I'm going to be out there every day, just watching high-speed stuff. I love it. Wow. And so we get that corridor certified, and that's when you're going to see all these companies who are making these planes, like you were talking about. Boom has one, the XB-1, I believe. There's another one called the Quarter Horse. I think they're out of Atlanta. I can't remember the name of that company specifically. There's a lot of hypersonic planes being developed right now, and supersonic commercial.
Man, that's amazing.
But they need a place to test.
They do.
And we got it right here in Midland.
We got it.
Yeah. Test your space suits and everything. Yeah.
Like the time, right, that we're in, right, with the AI, right, emerging technologies is really coming up that could really accelerate, the process, and has been. Yeah. Right? And then you look at the quantum computing. Yes. Which is insane.
Yeah.
So, two collide, and they're working together.
Right.
It's like, it's exponential. We can't even fathom.
Yeah, I was reading an article recently that there's a $500 billion investment being made by Apple into Texas to build an AI server farm. And I heard it's going to be installed in Abilene. I also heard it's going to be in Houston. So we'll see, maybe two. Well, I'll take $1 trillion worth of AI, AI servers in Texas.
Oh my gosh!
But yeah, I mean, AI is something that's amazing. I work with an AI company, Intellectable, and we focus mostly on the thesis or the theory of the entire product is based on what happens when you have perfect access to perfect information all the time. So we went out and did some market research on that. We developed the tool. It's a retrieval augmented generation tool, RAG AI based tool. So you can put in source material with special servers. So you can put unlimited source material, unlimited RAG, unlimited runtime. And then that gave people perfect access to perfect information all the time. And what we saw is they were able to build automations that enabled them to win work rapidly. We've seen companies just strategically become wildly efficient. Some of it, so I'll give you one example. We had a company that they worked with us for a couple of months. They built some automations that allowed them to go out and search for opportunities in the government and then help them to, and we call it human in the loop AI. You don't want to let AI run wild.
Right.
It'll start hallucinating and weird stuff. So we keep human in the loop on our AI tool. What we noticed was they would build automations to go out and find opportunities for them. They would build automations that would then start to write or tell them what they're supposed to do for that opportunity. And then they started building automations to respond to the opportunity. And then they started building automations to grade their own, the work that was being generated by the automations. And we recently saw a company, it took them about 2 weeks of automation generating and be honest, but within an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes, they had a first final draft of a direct to phase 2. They spent another week, massaging it and working with it, but they won $1.9 million off of that. Oh, wow. And so it's knowing your process, having that standard operating procedure, and then enabling with an AI that's going to make people business-wise. It's going to change things. If you do something more than once, you should write it down and automate it.
Yeah.
And especially in this day and age.
Right. OPs.
SOPs, people.
Are powerful.
Yes, they are. Yes. So AI, that's a huge thing. I mean, flight parameters. If you're going 17,000 miles an hour and you need to connect to something and you've got to fly, 30,000 miles an hour to catch up to it. And like I said, it's happening so fast, you won't be able to see it as a human being. Yeah. We need AI to solve those kind of problems. And they are doing that and working on that now. It's really amazing.
It's mind blowing to hear you're putting up there.
Yeah. I mean, it's people need to get 90% efficiencies out of any one of your processes through automation.
Yeah.
And you start stacking those automations. And I talked about from discovery to grading the thing. Yeah. You get a lot of confidence in what you're doing and you understand your process and you trust your process because your process has worked for you in the past. Right. Automate it. Go, win more work.
Right. You keep the loop feedback loop going consistently, incrementally improving.
Yes.
It's amazing what we can.
It is. It really is. I say all the time, it's wonderful to be alive, and that's one of the main reasons. When I was introduced to computers when I was a kid, it was a screen. I think it was one of those. It was a Windows DOS 3.1, the green screen. And it was like in my mind, I thought, well, I should just be able to put like a note on the computer and tell it what to do, and then tell it, oh, go do this next. Computers were not like that at all, especially MS-DOS. And so now it is. You can essentially with some of these Intellectable specifically, it's a low-code and code automation editor. So you can just put a Post-it note on your computer, not a real one. Right. It's a node that looks kind of like a Post-it note. And so you can do that and attach strings to it. And then AI happens. Amazing things happen. Automations happen.
So it's a workflow.
Right. Workflow. Just that. So it's like, I have this Post-it note. This Post-it note knows after it knows this, it needs to do a job with this strategy. And then you just build out your process.
It connects to
libraries, web parsing, web searches, all that stuff. We can do that. And it's all bespoke and necessary. Whatever is necessary. The fastest things that we found to do is connecting it with SharePoints and Google Drives and all that other stuff. One really cool thing is we call it implementations, where we're able to take one of those automations, and then essentially the AI becomes a chatbot, and then the automations go out and find certain information. And then when you interact with it through the implementation, through the chatbot, so to speak, it goes out and uses that background of information to go either find out more or stores your information. So you're able to market research very rapidly. If someone is interested in talking about something, build a chatbot that they can interact with, and then they'll give you this information, or you can really give them that information. Without having individual one at a time conversations over the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. You know, like,
It's like
so
efficient.
in the mornings, I usually brain dump into on the drive to work. I'll brain dump my AI.
Oh, I like that.
I'll just go and say, oh, and then I'll come across, that's right, I need to email this person. So I'll say, okay, help me write the email. And so while I'm crafting it, then I don't know what I was thinking, but I said, okay, go ahead and send it. But I was like, oh, can't do that yet.
Yeah. It's not Jarvis.
It's almost. I mean, we're almost there.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it's absolutely, totally possible I still think it would be smart for somebody to keep themselves in the loop.
For sure. For sure.
I mean, you want wild, go wild.
Nah,
but,
it should always,
not you, but
yeah, no, it should always be a human loop.
Yeah.
You know, when I teach AI seminars, you know, it's like, it's important. It's like you have to do not copy paste the first draft.
Right.
Please do not do that.
It's supposed to help you get there, not put you there.
Not put you there. Right.
Yeah. And so there's that. And there's a lot of stuff that's on with AI and machine learning. And Intellectable does this where it can look at web pages and pretty much just generate web pages.
Wow.
Based on like, I have these 20 web pages. I need a web page that looks and works kind of like those. And it'll just generate it automatically. WordPress does something similar now. We're starting to see major efficiencies come out of this stuff. But then when it comes, like I was talking about the flight, the computer vision and machine learning of AI are huge. If a computer can see and then have machine learning algorithms running on what it's supposed to do when it sees things, now that's autonomous.
Right.
And that's really cool to see. That's where we're starting to see. We've seen drones be able to do this. Spacecraft needing to be able to do this. It's a cool.
Every day, it's like they're just cranking up the notch. Every single day, there's something more coming out.
Right. It's in the 90s, it seemed like a big thing happened a year, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe it was a slow year. Maybe it was 1996 and nobody noticed. But nowadays, it's like every week there's just a myriad of major things happening and moving. And I don't know if it's because we've become more connected or if we've just become more intelligent, or if we're just more people are on the planet and we're all doing more things. I don't know what it is, but it does seem like more things are just happening faster. And thank goodness we have things like AI to help us keep in touch with it. I don't want to read all the news articles.
No.
And that's one great thing about AI.
Absolutely. You know, it can filter instantaneously.
Exactly.
You know, for what are you interested in? You know, you have to check the boxes, right? And now it already kind of knows what you want before, because you know, if you go into ChatGPT and ask, "What do you know about me?" It'll blow your mind.
Yeah, I know. It's well, I know. Let's get to make your based on what it knows about you.
Make a what?
Generate an image of me in my office based on what you know about me.
Yeah.
That one gets weird.
I'm gonna try that one.
Yeah.
Get weirded out.
Yeah. But it's amazing things, and I think we'll see a lot more of this come. A lot of people talk about how AI is going to replace humans. I just don't. It's going to humans.
And that's what
what we've noticed at the board is that when a company at Intellectual, when a company goes into they're really producing efficiencies, they're saving money. They're looking for more employees. They're not looking to get rid of their employees. They're looking for more work. They're looking for more money. They're not looking to reduce their money, their revenue. They're not looking to reduce anything at all. They're looking to say, okay, we got some muscles here. Let's stretch them.
Yes. You know, and say somebody, your owner and a manager comes and says, hey, we need to hire more people for this. Have you tried using AI?
Right.
If you can prove to me it cannot be done with AI, then we'll consider hiring.
Right.
But it has to be essential.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and even there's some things, that humans have to do. And there are some things that an AI can do, but a human should. I think our best combination is going to be a human robotic relationship. It's not a robot relationship or a human. We've already done the human thing, and we know how fast that is.
Yeah.
And so, the human to robotic relationship, I think we're gonna see that enable us the most. The robotic on robotic relationships are just they can know as much as they were taught. And so, and with the human and robotic relationship, they're just constant in the loop, and it's just constant updates, constant growth, constant development, constant iteration.
Right.
And that's what it needs.
Because once we get what we need, we can make it sound more human.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Or yeah, exactly. Or I'm sending this to NASA scientists. You at least make it sound like that, because that's not me. But right. No, and AI is great for them. I think into the future, I'm very interested to see what comes.
Yes.
Interested to know whether the number one job last year was AI engineer.
Ah,
I think it was like the number one hired job.
Wow.
It's pretty wild.
well, you know, if a company isn't AI forward, thinking AI, you know, to implement it, they're going to get left behind. You know,
Absolutely. Especially when it comes to government contracting, because guess what? That contract, there's only one. And
Right.
that money, there's only one pot of money. That contract's getting that pot of money. And so if there's a company out there who's understood what it takes to be maximally competitive for that pot of money, they're going to increase let's say that pot of money increases their revenue by 2%. Anybody else who thought they were going to win that contract or put that contract on their charts, the cap table, whatever, future revenue, they're going down 2%. And that's where the competition really starts. You start to see things get tipped.
yeah.
Where you're like, oh, they won a contract with 10 days worth of work, and this company worked on it for 2 months as well. Now that environment's really bad too, because this company will spend 10 business days, and then they've got another 6 weeks of doing whatever else they want. They could probably do it 3 or 4 more times. Whereas this other company spent 6 to 8 weeks writing one proposal that they may or may not win.
Right.
And so I think those are the things you're going to see from AI. Maybe, I don't know, maybe some number 8 prime defense company all of a sudden becomes number 4, and they're like, how in the world did this happen?
Yeah.
You know, and they come to find out, well, they automated winning. That's
Right.
what they did.
They get serious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of just like talked about it and thought about it and decided it was risky, and then maybe talked about it the next year. Like, no, just get in it, do it, automate your stuff.
Right.
The sooner you do it, the better you will be.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So I got to ask this question, man. Are we alone?
That's a great question. If we are, then all of this is our responsibility. And that's the scarier part of it. If we aren't, then we can at least blame somebody else who might be smarter than us. But at this point, we are alone and all on us.
Yeah.
This is our responsibility to protect and to grow so that the future generations can continue to protect and grow and enjoy it. We've seen a lot of war over the last 100 years, probably. But it's just, we got to protect things in them.
Yeah. Well, Eric, it's been a great conversation, man.
Thank you.
Do you have any parting words, about what you do?
So I travel around the state of Texas and meet with communities and try to understand where they're at with the space industry. Midland, Texas is taking this very seriously for the last 10 years. They're going to continue to take it very seriously. Midland, Texas is the new space city of Texas. And so anybody has any questions around Midland, Texas about what's going on here, please reach out to me. Please join us. Please work with us. We want to get into the schools and help educate children on space potential. We want to get into the universities and provide workforce development in any way that we can. And so, yes, support us so that we can support you.
So how do they get in contact?
So you can reach out to us on ussfa.org. You can reach out to me directly at eric.mcmanus@ussfa.org. And then we also have LinkedIn at our SFA. We have Space Force Association, which is our national LinkedIn page. We have a Space Force Association Texas page, and we also have a Space Force Association Midland page. But it's very important that we keep a pulse, an intimate pulse, finger on the pulse of what's going on in these communities. Yeah. And that's the way we do that, is a community of people on these social media sites. And we also have these events where we go and tell them the space activities occurring in the community.
For sure. And then they can keep up with your events that you're having. Yes.
Our next event's going to be May the 4th. And then in June, this isn't one of our events, but we're very excited to support it. There's going to be a sounding rocket competition in June. It's the one in the country. They're going to be launching. There's going to be 2,500 children here building and launching rockets in Midland.
That's super cool.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And really looking forward to that. And that's something that everybody should look into. In July, we're going to be in Texas. We're going to be working with Urgent Fury and helping host the Texas Battle Bowl.
Yeah.
So you'll have plenty of opportunity to see us there. We'll be down at the Bush Conference Center at the Centennial Park, partying it up. And then we've got Fly in the Fall after that. You'll see me around.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put all those in the show notes. So
Cool. Yeah, we'll get you the scheduled events for the year.
Awesome.
Man.
Well, thanks a lot, Eric.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. And I'm excited for the future, excited for Midland, and see what we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love these conversations.
Absolutely. Anytime, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.